Welcome to a short reflection by Sebastian Mahfoud on Canto 24 of Dante's Purgatorio. According to the translation by A.S. Klein of Canto 26 of La Vita Nuova, so gentle and so pure appears my lady when she greets others, that every tongue trembles and is mute, and their eyes do not dare gaze at her. She goes by, aware of their praise, benignly dressed in humility, and seems as if she were a thing come from heaven to earth to show a miracle. She shows herself so pleasing to those who gaze. Through the eyes she sends a sweetness to the heart, that no one can understand who does not know it, and from her lips there comes a sweet spirit full of love, that goes saying to the soul, "Sigh." This is the sweet new style of natural expression, to which Bonagiunta of Lucca compares his own poetry, after muttering a prophecy about a second Platonic love tryst Dante will have with his sister Gentuca during the time of his exile. This is an introspective style that combines metaphor and intellection with praise of feminine beauty, described as if from paradise. The focus, in the Tuscan vernacular, was on the beloved, but reflected greatly on the lover's powers of symbolic description. We have, in fact, been reading this sweet new style all term. Bonagiunta smiles at the comparison, saying that if one were to put the poetry up side by side, one would find only that one thing lacking from the poetry that members of his own school had written, that one thing that could have made his own poetry better. Before having Bonagiunta pointed out to him by Forese, Dante asks about Forese's sister Piccarda, and learns that she's already in heaven. In fact, Dante will meet her first among those souls, as Piccarda resides in the sphere of the moon for reasons we'll learn from her. The gluttons then move on, but Forese hangs back, like Ser Brunetto Latino did back in Hell's seventh circle, and asks Dante about when they might meet again. In effect, when might Dante actually get around to dying, since Forese realizes that Dante will have to climb back up the mountain thereafter. Ciardi notes this is a worthwhile question for Forese, since to him death is not a tragedy but an arrival, which is how Dante had to understand Beatrice's death when he describes it in the 23rd canto of La Vita Nuova. I lifted my eyes, bathed in tears, and saw what seemed like manna raining, angels returning to the sky, and a little cloud went before them, behind which they all cried, Hosanna. And if they had said more, I would tell you. After uttering a prophecy of his own concerning his brother Corso, whose counsel to Boniface VIII led to Charles de Valois being asked to mediate in Florence, Forese departs, saying, "Now I must leave you far behind. Your pace has cost me a considerable delay, and time is precious to us in this place." Corso Donati, who did so much also to damage his sister's rank in heaven, has not only his own death announced, but also his damnation, likely as a bunkmate to Guido de Montefeltro, among the evil counselors of the Eighth Circle. If Purgatory is a place without weather, as Statius has already explained, it is still a rather fecund place, if the seeds from the Garden of Eden can fall onto the mountain and give birth to saplings that mature into full trees. Shouting the Rein of Gluttony is a second tree, an offshoot of the Tree of Knowledge, which cries out its denunciation of Eve's act, for her gluttony lost God to all mankind, until the coming of Christ. Next is the image of the slaughter of the centaurs by Theseus, for they had become so drunk at a wedding feast that they tried to make off with the bride. Finally comes the verbal image of Gideon's selection of the men who could defeat the Midians, by watching how they slaked their thirst on the banks of a river. Once past the tree, the poets come upon the angel of abstinence, who calls out to them, those three alone, and offers not only the passageway, but also the second half of the beatitude we heard below. Blessed are those who take pleasure in keeping every hunger within measure. With that the poets ascend, and the angel removes the sixth P from Dante's forehead. As John Stearns points out in his discussion post on the previous canto, the physical reality of gluttony is more properly considered an inordinate response to food, rather than just an overconsumption of it. For that reason, those suffering from anorexia would also be culpable in denying their bodies their due measure of nourishment, and might as likely be consigned for a time to this ledge of purgatory. The thing to notice is that nowhere in Dante's cosmos does he really make room for the insane, the nervously disordered, or the compulsive, the reality being that even the disordered continue to have free will, governed in the sense of what St. Paul called in Romans 2:15, the law written on our hearts. The most likely method of placement is to consider the acts of the person, and prepare a place for expiation on the ledges whose virtues are most directly attacked by the corresponding vice, in the promise and expectation that all that was broken shall be made whole, all that was disordered shall be made right, and all that was sick shall be healed. We'll see some support for this idea in the ledge we're about to enter, when we meet the disordered passions of the homosexuals purging themselves in fire.